Welcome to On the Rise with Candace Cordelia, a Broadway World production. I'm your host, Candace Cordelia, and I must say, after seeing this performer on Broadway in Aladdin, I was just so blown away by her performance, everyone else's performances, and the show itself. It's truly a spectacle, and as someone who grew up seeing Aladdin on Disney, you don't want to miss this, and you don't want to miss seeing Sonya Balsara on stage. And I'm with her today. How are you, Sonya?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for being here. I know this is quite a busy time for you. You are all over the place, especially on Broadway stage in Aladdin as Jasmine. And I have to say, and I'll say it once more, it was so amazing seeing you in this performance. And it's truly a treat. So, congratulations to you on your current success.
Thank you so much. It means so much to me that you came to see the show.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it highly. And I can't wait to talk to you more about the show and your role as Jasmine. But I want to start at the beginning, obviously, with how you came to be a Broadway star, an actress, a performer, singer, dancer, everything and all of the above. I did some research on you, and your background is very fascinating, Sonya. One of the things that I read up on is your parentage. You have a very interesting background in terms of your parents and their profession and where you grew up. I understand that you were born in Brooklyn and
Mhm.
raised in Berkeley, California. And I know Berkeley is known for its academics, UC Berkeley, a lot of really cool and interesting things happen there. But you were brought up, by one parent, a professor, chemical
Mhm.
engineering, another parent, a professional classical singer. So, Sonya, what was your childhood like growing up in a household with two parents, one in academia and one in the arts?
I really feel like it was a perfect balance of arts and science growing up. Like I went home during the pandemic and downstairs you hear like Brahms Requiem coming through the vents, and then you hear my dad talking about polymer science on a Zoom call. Like it's this beautiful cacophony of both worlds. And my dad actually does a lot of work in like sustainability and lowering CO2 emissions. And so like I'm really passionate about making the planet a better place. And then obviously really passionate about music and community and coming together to tell stories that I got from my mom. And so like right now too, I really want to learn how to bridge that gap, and like having both of that, like that yin and yang together, like arts and science together is like 100% why I am the way I am today. And I feel so lucky to have grown up in that sort of yin yang.
Yeah. I can't personally relate to that because as a kid myself, there was always the academics and then
Mhm.
also my passion and love for the arts, and trying to bridge those together sometimes can be a bit of butting heads. Was there ever a point in your childhood where one pretty much grabbed you more so than the other, or did you feel a conflict in terms of what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Um, I definitely always wanted to go into the arts. I knew that. I wanted to be a creative and be a storyteller, but I think honestly, they both inform each other. And I actually don't think one can go without the other. And I feel really lucky. I got a super well-rounded education, and it was really important. My dad was like, you have to go to a university where you're going to get like a very, very good education. So I took like computer science in school, and I took classes in the physics department, and I took English literature. And I don't know, I took a lot of things that I honestly feel like inform my artistry. So I actually think that they go hand in hand.
I
I don't know if
really
that answer your question. I'm
really
sorry.
did. It was very
Yeah.
astute. And I love that you mentioned it because I think for some people, it seems as though you can't do one without the other. And I love the fact that you're stating it's actually the complete opposite. It's arts and sciences. I mean, that's a whole, department in most colleges. They go together. So I love that you mentioned that. What was the first moment as a child where you thought, that's it, I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to sing, I'm going to dance, I'm going to be on Broadway?
Um, I grew up watching so many movie musicals. I also grew up with a lot of Bollywood. So I was always sort of creating things on my own based on what I was like receiving from the media and with my friends and my family. My first Broadway show was Beauty and the Beast. My aunt took me to see it, and that totally opened up my vision of creative storytelling. I remember the magic in that, like the transformations and the lights, and it just being so like such a visceral theatrical experience. Um, and then I think there's actually I saw when I saw Drowsy Chaperone, I found out that the guy playing Man in Chair had written the show. And I thought that was super cool. And I was like, there's so many ways you can do this. And so then ultimately, I think what really helped me like be like, I want to do this. And my parents were like, oh no, we're in trouble, was I went to go see like a high school production of Oklahoma, and I became obsessed because, it's like a classic and whatnot. And I rented the movie, and I got out a little notebook and paused and played the movie over and over and over again and wrote a script. And then at recess, like held auditions and like cast my friends. And then I played Lori, and I wanted to rent a space, but my parents were like, no, you can't do that right now. So we did it in my house and like I put on a show, and they were like, yeah, we're in trouble. That was probably the moment.
That's really cool. And you hear stories like that a bit where, the moment where you put on a show for your family or your friends and that just seems to click. That's when you get that spark and you're thinking, yeah, this is the life for me. After that, what happened? Did you start to do more, say, high school plays, middle school plays? Was that a part of your life at that point?
Totally. I think my parents realized, let's invest less time in soccer and let's invest more time in yeah, doing community theater. I did shows at local theaters. I did a couple shows in high school, and I took class. I think that the thing that really, really rooted me. I mean, I love performing, but I think I love learning even more, and I love being in a like group setting where you're diving into a script and talking about it and understanding it. And I took classes at ACT in San Francisco in high school, and that was like my favorite thing. Like I took a clowning class. I took like I don't know, we read really amazing plays, and I just remember that's when I really started to fall in love with it, and I was like, I would love to go to school for this.
Yes. And then you eventually
Yeah.
did. So what was that experience like, the audition, the process, and then deciding where you wanted to go, if you wanted to stay in California or go to New York City?
Yeah, you mentioned I was born in New York, and I think when you're born in New York, you have a very, I don't know, I've always been so tethered to the city. When we moved to California, because my dad he works at UC Berkeley. That's why we moved. I forget exact. My dad has told me this story, but he's like, we moved, and he was like, where do you want to go? And apparently I was crying because we had moved, and it was like, where do you want to go right now? And I was like, turn left and don't stop until we get to New York. And I always knew that I always knew I was going to go back to New York. And when I applied for college, it was a really intense process. It's actually the most vulnerable audition process I think one can go through, because you're not auditioning for a part in a play, you're auditioning for the role of yourself, sort of. So getting rejected for schools is more heartbreaking than any kind of rejection. I feel like if you can go through that, you can like for sure do this industry. But after I'd gotten accepted to a couple places, I was, touring schools, and when I got to NYU, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I have to be here. Like my
That's
heart and gut and soul just knew. Yeah.
I feel like that's how it is, especially when it comes to NYU. I don't know. It just seems like the place that you have to go to, especially as an artist. And from the environment itself to its world renowned, drama department, it's just a win-win. And you made it there. So how was that for 4 years of your life, going through the trenches of being an actor, a young actor in New York City?
It was intense, and it was hard actually. I always heard that college would be like where I meet all my friends forever, and it was going to be like a bed of roses, and it was hard. It's hard to go to school in the city. You don't get this little like bubble that protects you, and you don't get a campus in the same way. New York City is your campus. But I will say, like, it was the most amazing growing experience I've ever had, for sure. And I completely learned who I was in those 4 years. And like I said earlier, like I got such a well-rounded education. I thought I was going to be like best friends with all of my friends in theater. And I ended up finding that my best friends were in marketing and like in computer science, and like I ended up living with those people and I'm still very close with them today. And it's like I need to feel like I have branches growing in all directions. And so that's what I'm really glad I got that out of going to school at NYU. And it really prepared me to like transition out into the real world for sure.
And I love that you mentioned you had friends from all different walks of life and different backgrounds and not just in theater. Do you feel that that helped inform your characters, having that experience of talking to someone who's going to a marketing class or studying neuropsychology instead of just being in that bubble of theater?
Totally. Well, first of all, I think being an actor, you have to be curious. We're telling stories about real people, so we need to be curious about all different kinds of people and learn from them and really, really listen to them. So if you don't have real relationships with people that do other things, like you're not really doing your work as an actor, I think. But the second part, honestly, was that, you know, I'd have to go and learn a song the next day for school, and be like, oh, like, or a really long monologue, like a, you know, 3-page Shakespeare monologue. And I'd be like, oh my God, my life is so hard. And then my friend would be doing like quantum physics. And I'd be like, oh, I'll go memorize this Shakespeare monologue, no problem. Like that kind of just having a perspective on the gift that I got to do what I loved, and take class for it that was also an element of it for me too.
So you go to NYU, you study theater for 4 years, you graduate. How do you go from NYU to becoming Jasmine in Aladdin on Broadway?
It took time. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't immediate at all for me. I was lucky enough to get agents before my senior year of college, and that really helped me. That really helped with my transition. I started auditioning while I was in school. And I actually shot a feature film during my senior year of college. It was a horror movie. It was really fun. It was a really cool experience. I got to work with some really awesome people. Boaz Yakin was the director who did Remember the Titans, and I was like, I don't know, I just remember being so starstruck. And then I did a lot of commercials and I did some TV out of college. That was the first big thing I did, but I had a side hustle. And I auditioned for theater constantly and didn't get jobs, and really learned how to audition and how to like maintain a healthy mentality through auditioning. And then I booked a few jobs. I booked one international job. Then I did, and then the pandemic happened, which, you know, set us back a little bit. And I came back and did the pre-Broadway workshop for The Karate Kid. Then I did a production out of Sense and Sensibility out in California, and then I got this job. So, you know, they're all building blocks too. You know, you learn from every single thing, and they all lead to each other. But yeah, I lots of patience, hard work, and figuring out how to play the game mentally, for sure.
Absolutely. And I have to give a shout out to the horror genre. That's my favorite genre. So that is my number one in terms of movies. I love horror, so, but I can't imagine what it's like acting in a horror film. I've heard it can be quite strenuous, and especially if you have to scream a lot and you have to run a lot, and it's more intense than I guess people realize. So kudos to you on that, because that's not easy acting in
I
horror.
did a shot where the camera lens was facing upward, and I had this is gross, but I had like fructose corn syrup that looked like blood just dripping out of. So I had to like aim for that, look like I was like vicious above the camera. It was like it really is. It is the most ridiculous genre to act in. I think you feel crazy.
Oh my gosh, don't knock cars.
Yeah.
I know. It's I can I can just imagine, hopefully one day I'll get there where I'm in a horror movie and I can see for myself what that feels like. But I love watching it. So as a fan, I enjoy it, and I give you props for being a part of that genre because it's a lot. But I definitely want to go back to Aladdin and the role of Jasmine. It's so iconic for a lot of people, kids, teenagers, adults, whichever. It spans generations. It's a part of the Disneyverse. It's huge in pop culture. And now you're a part of it on Broadway. So, first and foremost, how did you get the role, and how was that process, before earning the role of Jazz?
I had 3 auditions for it. I went in and sang the solo song she gets to sing, Palace Walls. And then I was called back for a work session that lasted about 45 minutes. And I remember it was the most intense work session. I came out of that audition and I think for 20 minutes, I wrote down everything I could possibly remember. And then I had a final callback, and that was it. I mean, you can, I don't, there's tons of details in there. Obviously, I'm not sharing, but
of course, it's all good. So I have to also add up or follow up with that is, what did you do when you found out that you got the part?
I called my mom and she didn't answer. So then I called my dad. And he cried. They both cried, but yeah.
That's so beautiful. That's lovely. And now you're a part of history. And I want to add, because this is very intriguing to me, you are mixed race. And Aladdin itself, it's a story based in the Middle East. There have been different people to play the role, but the significance of being Jasmine, in my opinion, it's very important. And as someone who personally, I'm very big into representation on Broadway. It's a topic that more people are talking about on a daily basis. They want to see more representation on Broadway, and you're a part of this history, given your heritage, that's huge. So, what
Yeah.
are your thoughts about one, being this role, being Jasmine, being mixed race, and what that means for you?
Yeah. Oh my God. I first of all, I completely feel the same way as you. I'm very passionate about there being more representation on Broadway, and I think it's a true honor to get to play Princess Jasmine. I mean, she's the only brown, or when I grew up, she was the only brown princess that there was. And it's interesting. I think the world of Agrabah yes, it pulls from Middle Eastern culture, but the original Aladdin was actually, it originally, I think when it was written in the 1700s, took place in China. And then it was adapted for, oh my gosh, 1001 Arabian Nights. And then Disney reinterpreted it, and it pulls from Middle Eastern, South Asian, and North African cultures. So being South Asian, and also within my South Asian identity, my ancestors are Persian. So I have some of that, when I did my 23andMe, I have I don't know, Mesopotamian and North African in me too. So I'm culturally only in touch with my Indian side. But I think that the fact that there's this universe, this world that exists for so many different colors, for all these different people, that does not exist, So many stories, which are amazing, tell a story about a very specific kind of person, a very specific diaspora. And to say we're telling the story on behalf of so many different types of people, that it's so inclusive, and you can actually be what you are on stage. I don't have to only tap into a side of myself. I can be mixed and fully tell the story, and then have someone who's my father be half Black, and that can be the reality of our story. And I think it's amazing too to have kids come to the show, and every single person can see someone on stage that looks like them, and can say, oh, I could do that, or I can go off and do this other thing because I see this happening here.
Yes. And that's one of the biggest things that I got from, because I didn't know what to expect. I went in just fully prepared for whichever might come, and just to have a great time. But seeing the absolute diversity that I witnessed on stage for this show, really, it was fantastic. And I wish to see more of that on Broadway in general. So it's great stuff. It's really good stuff. And speaking of the cast, I love the chemistry between you and Michael Maliakel, who plays Aladdin. It's so natural. You both just exude so much charm, and you're so personable, and you really elevate the script and really elevate the characters, in my opinion. What was it like working with Michael when you both were first thrust into this world and getting to really understand each other as actors, but also Aladdin and Jasmine and the relationship that they have?
Yeah. Michael Maliakel is so kind, first of all. He's like, he just makes you feel comfortable immediately. And, for me, it was tricky because here's this working, running machine of Aladdin on Broadway, and I have to somehow slip right in as if, as if I was a part of it the whole time. And I'd never experienced that. I'm only used to creating shows from the ground up and being in a rehearsal process and like being on the floor in your socks kind of a vibe. And honestly, I feel like that first show, I mean, I had my put in, but the first show, feeling the energy of 1700 people and being in the costumes, the lights, and it's so overwhelming. But I feel, he literally goes, "Do you trust me?" in the show, and I have to take his hand. I'm like, I'm not sure why, but yes. And we jump, and it really felt like, I mean, I did all my homework, I was prepared, but like I felt like I could just trust him in the
Yeah.
same way she trusts, in the same way the character trusts him. Yeah, totally.
Yes, and it definitely showed, and that was one of the more magical parts of the whole show. And you're right, when that moment of trust came, I think it really leaves you. It definitely, when you leave the show, you think about that a lot, and it's awesome. So
It
the
doesn't hurt
chemistry.
that he's like, his voice is like butter and gold combined. Like that doesn't hurt either. That I get to listen to that every day.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when you're preparing for a role such as this, Jasmine, I mean, what goes into the prep for you, and how do you keep things consistent and make sure that you're in tip-top shape, on a daily basis?
Yeah. Well, for me, first of all, it goes back to the script. I devour the script when I first get it. I want to not just memorize lines, but understand why I'm saying every single thing that I'm saying. And as I like work with people too, I get a deeper, more rich understanding of all of that. So I'm a big note taker, annotator. I'm always like checking in and seeing what new moments I discovered that day. So I'm big on just the discovery and making things new every day. That's really important for me. But in terms of like preparing in and out for the show, I feel like I wake up and start preparing for this show. Even right now, I'm aware of how I'm speaking so that I have enough energy for later and that I'm speaking healthily. I hydrate all day. I try to exercise every day. I do yoga every day before I do the show. Light vocal warm-ups, like blowing through a straw. After the show, it's really important to like have a good physical wind down. I try to like massage my muscles. My ankles get really tired being in the heels all day. It's just constant mindfulness, I'll say.
Yes, I really like that. And you beat me to it because I was thinking, I wonder how she decompresses after her show. And that sounds really lovely. But besides, making sure that you're massaged and you get a good night's rest, what do you do outside of performing? What fun things do you like to get into, Sonya?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I wish I had more time to do all the things I love to do. My favorite thing, honestly, in the world is to volunteer. I try to, whenever I have a free morning or afternoon, I'll volunteer with New York City parks and do park cleanups. I really, really, right now, I'm trying to also just cultivate a more sustainable lifestyle for myself. And I would also love to bring that into the lifestyle of people at the theater. Really, really passionate about that. And just cultivating a deeper connection with our earth. It's really hard in New York City to do that, but we can. And I love painting. Painting is like my side art project that I always have like a painting I'm kind of working on the side that activates a different creative muscle. And I'd also just say like I'm always reading something and I want to write more.
I also want to bring up TV and film. We talked a little bit about horror, a few moments ago, but you did mention even before that that you have been in TV shows. I know you were in FBI and Mozart in the Jungle. More television, is that in your future? Is that something that you would love to dive more into?
Oh, totally. It's a huge dream of mine.
Yes. So, which shows that are out now could you see yourself being a part of? And
Good question. Um, have you seen the show Normal People on
I
Hulu?
haven't yet. It's in my queue. I've heard about it so much, and I'm like, I need to watch.
I think it's the way it's shot, the pacing, the direction, the
Mhm.
script. I mean, for me, it always really does come back to the script. I just want to play. I mean, I love that. I bring that show up. It's done. That show is not going to be renewed. I don't think. It's based on a book, but I love that director, and I love the way that tone is set. I love that tone for I mean, I'm trying to think of other TV shows that are actually like recurring that I would love to be on, but honestly, I want to do new work. I want to do stuff that has yet to be written. I would love to be on a show that just displays complex, vulnerable, intelligent women. And yeah, has the honestly, I would love to tell a story about sustainability in that capacity too, to not just do the work in my life, but to also display it in a bigger way and to inspire people that way. That would be a huge dream of mine. A little discovery in this conversation. Yeah.
I feel that's coming. I feel like that's on its way to being manifested because it seems like a huge passion and I love that. I love that that's a passion of yours and I think it's important. I think more people should be educated about the environment and know what's at stake truly, because
Yeah.
we are
And I will say, like, I'm really honestly still learning too. Like, I don't have the full vocabulary. I don't have all the knowledge there is at all. But I want to learn more and I want to help other people like have access to that information too.
absolutely likewise, because I want to learn more and I think learning is important. So
The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. So,
and that can be overwhelming in and of itself, but it it just seems like this vast big it is a vast big universe and the more that you learn it is what it is. You just learn as much as you can and I don't think personally we can learn everything and maybe that's the whole beauty of it. You just learn as much as you can while
yeah,
you're here and take that with you and
yeah,
leave it for the next generation. So
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I think I meant to say that only in a means to say that, you know, the more you learn, the more you realize there is to learn and the more you desire to. If
true.
you don't have that innate desire at first and you think you know, at least there's so many people that think they know everything all the time. And I mean, I don't mean to go down a negative route, but like if you think you know everything, you actually like you're never going to actually get to your full capacity. Um, just bring that back to curiosity.
Absolutely. And you have to be curious too. To be an actor, it helps to be curious. And
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it shows in your work, Sonia. It really does. So on that note, what's next for you? Once Aladdin, your tenure with Aladdin is over, what else might you have on your plate or what are you thinking about getting into next?
I mean, I am so happy to be where I am right now. It's hard for me to see beyond just because I just started with Aladdin and I feel like I have so much deepening to do in my work there and I can't wait to really get comfortable in the role and use the platform that I hope to have as playing Princess Jasmine to do good in the community and to inspire other people. But like far off dreams for me, definitely to originate a part in a Broadway show, 100%. That's a huge dream of mine. To do film and TV.
Love it. And we can't wait to see what's next and what comes down the pike for you. And for now, and you make a great point, we are just going to sit back and enjoy your work in Aladdin as Jasmine. And once again, congratulations, Sonya. It's been really lovely talking with you. And I am so excited for you. And yes, I hope you take this experience in and enjoy it. Enjoy it while you can.
Thank you. So nice to meet you and chat with you.
You as well. Thank you so much, Sonia. It was a lovely conversation with you. And thank you all for watching this episode of On the Rise with Candace Cordelia here at Broadway World. We will be back to bring you another fantastic and new interview with another of your favorite stars on Broadway. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.